Yo, what's up, everyone? It's Legacy Shinobi here, back with another epic What If. Today, we're diving into what if Naruto was raised by the Nara clan and wielded Katen Kyokotsu, a Naruto x Bleach crossover. Before we jump in, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more insane what ifs. Alright, let's get straight into the story. Naruto versus Kazuo. Naruto stood with his blades crossed before him, their dark sheen reflecting Kazuo's confident smirk. Two blades, huh? Kazuo chuckled, spinning his custom revolver on his finger. You think a fancy weapon can match this? He tapped the barrel, a low hum emanating from the gun as it charged with crackling energy. Naruto remained calm, the shadows around his feet rippling unnaturally. Well, I figured I'd try and make this entertaining for both of us. Without warning, Kazuo raised his gun and fired. A bullet laced with glowing energy shot forth, leaving a streak of light in its wake. Naruto was already gone. Kazuo's smirk faltered as Naruto reappeared behind him, the air splitting with the sudden displacement. Before he could react, Naruto thrusted two fingers into Kazuo's back using a technique called Tsukyubi. The force sent Kazuo hurtling forward, slamming into the ground with a cloud of dust. Kazuo rolled to his feet, coughing but unfazed. Fast, I'll give you that. He aimed again, firing 3 shots in rapid succession. Naruto twisted his blades, spinning them in synchronized arcs. Bushigoma. The bullets were intercepted by the swirling wind, the attack forming a growing tornado that surged toward Kazuo. A tornado, huh? Kazuo growled, leaping back. He fired a charged shot, the impact splitting the tornado, but failing to dissipate the lingering force. Caught by the residual winds, Kazuo staggered, his footing faltering. Naruto pressed the advantage, stepping into the shadows cast by a nearby rock and vanishing. Kazuo snapped his head around, his eyes scanning the battlefield. Hiding? You're gonna have to do better than that. A voice echoed from all directions. Who said I was hiding? Kazuo's shadow stretched unnaturally. He looked down just as a blade pierced up from beneath him. He twisted out of the way, narrowly avoiding the strike. Kajioni, Naruto's voice whispered again. Kazuo found himself spinning, evading shadowy tendrils that lashed at him from all sides. Each step he took felt more precarious as the shadows seemed to follow him, shrinking his safe space. Enough of this, Kazuo roared, throwing a small cylindrical device to the ground. It exploded in a burst of light, dispelling the shadows for a moment. Naruto reappeared, standing on a nearby ledge. He rested one of his scimitars on his shoulder, looking unimpressed. You're not bad at keeping your cool, Kazuo smirked, pulling out another weapon, this one a sleek, rifle-like gun. You're quick, but let's see how you handle this. The rifle emitted a low hum before firing a concentrated energy beam. Naruto leapt high, dodging the initial blast, but Kazuo anticipated the move. He adjusted his aim mid-fire, sweeping the beam toward Naruto in midair. Naruto spun, his blades glowing faintly as he activated Zangorin. A massive wave of energy erupted from his swords, colliding with the beam and splitting it in two. The resulting explosion sent both combatants flying in opposite directions. As the dust settled, Naruto pushed himself to his feet, his breathing steady despite the strain. You're full of surprises, he admitted, brushing off debris from his coat. You are full of surprises yourself, Kazuo. Let's end this, Naruto. Kazuo raised his gun, eyes narrowing. Finally, some enthusiasm. Naruto stood still, his blades crossed in front of him. Shadows danced around him as he took a deep breath, the battlefield quieting. Darumasende Karanda, he declared softly, his voice carrying an ominous weight. Kazuo frowned, gripping his broken rifle tighter. What kind of game is this? He muttered, eyes darting around as the world seemed to shift unnaturally. Trails of Ryatsu snaked through the air, their glow eerily illuminating the battlefield. Naruto began to move, his steps deliberate as he followed the path of energy left behind by the powerful Zangorin. Each step brought him closer to Kazuo, yet his form seemed to flicker, blending with the shadows around him. Kazuo's instincts screamed at him. He aimed his weapon wildly, scanning the shifting shadows for any sign of Naruto. Show yourself, he growled, the tension in his voice betraying his unease. The Ryatsu trail glimmered brighter as Naruto approached, his movements precise and soundless. Kazuo finally caught a glimpse of him, his silhouette emerging briefly from the shadows as he closed the distance. "There you are," Kazuo shouted, turning his head sharply to fix his gaze on Naruto. The moment Kazuo's eyes locked onto Naruto's moving form, everything stopped. Kazuo froze mid-breath, his body stiffening as an invisible force gripped him. His gun clattered to the ground as his eyes widened in realization. "No, what?" he gasped, his voice cracking. Naruto's steps halted as he lowered his blades, standing just a few feet away from the paralyzed man. The air around them seemed heavier, oppressive. "Game over," Naruto said softly, his tone lacking malice but carrying an air of finality. Rules of the game. If Naruto's opponent sees him approaching, they die. Kazuo's body trembled, his knees buckling as he fell to the ground. His breathing grew shallow and then stopped altogether. The light in his eyes dimmed as his body slumped forward, lifeless. Naruto exhaled and sheathed his blades. "A shame. You were a good player," he murmured, his voice almost regretful. The battlefield grew still once more, the remnants of the Ryatsu trail fading into the ether as Naruto turned and walked away. The game had ended, and the victor was clear. Ryuji cracked his knuckles, each pop like a thunderclap in the tense atmosphere. He stood tall, his towering frame exuding raw power as he grinned wickedly. His eyes locked onto Guy, who stretched in preparation, the light in his eyes burning with youthful determination. "Finally, someone who might actually give me a challenge," Ryuji exclaimed, his voice brimming with anticipation. Guy returned the grin, his pearly white teeth gleaming. "I hope you're ready, my youthful opponent. Let us test the limits of our strength." Without warning, Ryuji lunged forward, the ground beneath him exploding from the sheer force of his takeoff. His fist swung down like a hammer, aiming to crush Guy in one blow. But Guy sidestepped with ease. "Fast," Ryuji noted, his grin widening. Guy didn't respond. Instead, he countered with a high-speed kick aimed at Ryuji's ribs. Ryuji raised his forearm just in time. Trees swayed and leaves scattered as the two combatants exchanged blows, each strike carrying immense power. Ryuji roared, a burst of chakra erupting from his body, creating a shockwave that forced Guy to leap back. The ground where Guy had been standing moments ago cracked and splintered. "Not bad, but can you keep up?" Ryuji taunted, his fists glowing faintly as he focused chakra into them. Guy landed gracefully, his expression calm but focused. Youth burns brightest under pressure. "Let's see how brightly you shine." Ryuji charged again, his skin shimmering as he activated his chakra-hardening technique. Each strike he threw felt like being hit with a sledgehammer, forcing Guy to stay on the defensive. Guy blocked and dodged with extraordinary agility, but the sheer force of Ryuji's attacks began to leave cracks in the ground and fissures in nearby boulders. "Your taijutsu is impressive," Guy admitted as he backflipped to create some distance. "And yours is just as good as they said. Green beast," Ryuji replied, his grin never faltering. Deciding it was time to turn the tide, Guy crossed his arms and focused his chakra. The air around him shifted as he activated the first gate, then the second, his body radiating an intense energy. "Allow me to demonstrate the power of youth," Guy shouted, his voice echoing across the battlefield. Ryuji's eyes narrowed as Guy disappeared from his sight. Before Ryuji could react, a devastating kick slammed into his side, sending him hurtling through several trees. He recovered quickly, rolling to his feet and spitting out a mouthful of blood. "Now this is what I'm talking about," Ryuji bellowed, slamming his fists together, creating a burst of energy that leveled the surrounding trees. The two warriors collided once more, their speed and power creating shockwaves that shook the earth. Guy's movements became more erratic and unpredictable as he unleashed the morning peacock, Asakojiku. Ryuji weathered the storm, his hardened skin absorbing most of the damage. He countered with a devastating uppercut, chakra enhanced to create a localized explosion. Guy twisted midair, avoiding the full brunt of the attack, and retaliated with a spinning kick to Ryuji's head, staggering the larger man. Frustrated but exhilarated, Ryuji slammed his fists into the ground. Channeling his chakra, to create a massive shockwave that radiated outward. Guy leapt high into the air, avoiding the blast entirely. "You'll have to do better than that," Guy called out from above. Ruji smirked. "I was hoping you'd say that." He propelled himself upward with a burst of chakra, meeting Guy midair. Their fists clashed, creating a deafening boom that sent both men flying back. Guy landed in a crouch, skidding to a stop, while Ruji crashed into a boulder, shattering it. Realizing that brute strength alone wouldn't be enough, Ruji focused his chakra entirely into his fists, his arms glowing with an intense light. He charged at Guy one final time, each step shaking the ground. Guy, now glowing with the power of the fixed gate, planted his feet firmly. He waited until Ruji was mere inches away before unleashing the morning peacock once again, his fiery strikes overwhelming Ruji's chakra-fueled assault. As the barrage of punches landed, Ruji's hardened skin began to crack, and his movement slowed. With one final shout, Guy delivered a spinning kick to Ruji's chest, sending him flying backward. Ruji crashed into the ground, creating a massive crater, and lay still. Guy stood over his defeated opponent, his breathing heavy but controlled. He gazed down at Ruji, who coughed weakly, a grin still on his battered face. "You're a strong, green beast," Ruji admitted, his voice hoarse. "I'll admit defeat, but that was the most fun I've had in years." With a smile, Guy gave him a thumbs up. "Your strength is undeniable, my youthful friend. But remember, true strength is not just in power, but in spirit." Ruji chuckled weakly before slipping into unconsciousness. Guy turned, his usual exuberance dimmed slightly as he rejoined the others, ready to assist in the next phase of the battle. Despite his victory, he knew the fight was far from over. Kakashi versus Haruka the Spiritualist. The battlefield was eerily silent as Kakashi stood facing Haruka Ueno. Her presence exuded an unsettling calm, her figure illuminated by the shifting glow of elemental chakra and spiritual energy. Haruka moved with a serene grace, as though the battle itself was beneath her. Kakashi, by contrast, was tense but focused, his Sharingan spinning slowly as it tracked her every movement. Haruka's voice broke the silence. "You carry the weight of many lives on your shoulders, copy Ninja Kakashi. Yet, your gaze is clouded by hesitation. Why do you fight? To atone? To protect? Or simply to survive?" Kakashi said nothing, his hand tightening around his lightning-charged tanto. His stance spoke volumes. He was ready for anything. Silent as the grave, Haruka murmured, "Very well. Let us see if your resolve matches your reputation." Haruka's hands moved fluidly, forming intricate seals that seemed to blur together. A gust of razor-sharp wind surged forward. Kakashi leapt back, his Sharingan predicting the attack's trajectory, but the wind changed course mid-flight, slicing toward him like a living blade. "Right on, Reiko Ken." Kakashi's tanto flared with lightning as he slashed through the wind, dispersing it with a burst of energy. He dashed forward, closing the gap between them in an instant, and brought his blade down. Haruka raised her hand, and a wall of water rose to meet the attack, solidifying into ice just as Kakashi's blade connected. Sparks flew as the lightning clashed against the ice. But before he could press the attack, Haruka melted into the water, her form flowing across the ground like a river. Kakashi spun, his Sharingan tracking her reformation behind him. He was already moving when she unleashed a volley of fireballs, dodging the first two and countering the third with a water jutsu of his own. Steam hissed and billowed around them as the fire and water collided. "You're quick," Haruka said, her voice echoing unnaturally through the mist. "But quickness alone won't save you." Kakashi barely had time to react as chains erupted from the ground, glowing with spiritual energy. He flipped backward, avoiding the chains as they lashed at him like whips, but one caught his arm, searing into his skin with a burning heat. Gritting his teeth, Kakashi formed a one-handed seal. Doton Dorihiki, a massive earthen wall rose between him and Haruka, forcing the chains to retract. Haruka didn't wait for him to recover. She clapped her hands together, and a glowing sigil appeared beneath her feet. The ground rumbled as jagged pillars of stone shot upward in a wide radius, forcing Kakashi to leap and weave through the treacherous terrain. Kakashi retaliated with a flurry of kunai, each one wrapped with explosive tags. Haruka deflected them with a wave of water, but the explosions obscured her vision for a split second, long enough for Kakashi to close the gap. He appeared behind her, his tanto glowing with Raikiri's deadly power. Got you! But his blade passed through empty air as Haruka dissolved in a fire, reappearing several meters away. She smiled faintly. A commendable effort, but predictable. Kakashi didn't falter. He reached into his pouch, pulling out ninja wire, infusing it with chakra. In a blur of motion, he flung the wire toward her, the strands weaving into a complex trap that encircled her. Predictable, huh? Kakashi smirked as he tugged on the wire, activating the chakra embedded within it. The trap pulsed with electricity, sparking violently as it closed in on Haruka. For the first time, Haruka's serene expression flickered with surprise. Impressive, she admitted, but then her eyes glowed with an unnatural light. However, I am far from finished. She clapped her hands, and the sigils on her body flared brightly. The 5 elements swirled around her, converging into a massive spiritual construct, a towering figure composed of fire, water, earth, wind, and lightning. Its glowing eyes locked onto Kakashi, and with a deafening roar, it lunged forward. Kakashi dodged its first attack, a sweeping blow that left a crater in the ground. His Sharingan analyzed the construct's movements, searching for a weakness. But the entity was relentless, its elemental form constantly shifting to counter his attacks. Damn it, Kakashi muttered, sweat dripping down his face. He formed another set of seals. Suiton, Suirida no Jutsu. A massive water dragon surged toward the construct, colliding with it in a burst of elemental energy. The construct staggered but didn't fall. It retaliated with a blast of wind and fire, forcing Kakashi to retreat. He landed on a nearby rock, breathing heavily. This thing's tough. I need to find a way to disrupt her control over it. Haruka floated above the battlefield, her eyes glowing as she directed the elemental construct. You've done well to last this long, Kakashi. But all things must end. Kakashi's gaze hardened. Yo, Kakashi. Guy landed beside him, his body bruised but his grin unshaken. Looks like you could use a hand. Kakashi let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Took you long enough. Guy cracked his knuckles, his eyes narrowing as he looked at Haruka and the towering construct behind her. You just focus on her. Leave the big guy to me. Guy, breathing heavily, stood shoulder to shoulder with Kakashi, their gazes fixed on Haruka. She floated serenely above the ground, her form flickering with an ethereal glow. The markings of her ritualistic sigils circled her feet, shimmering in colors that shifted like the tides. The air around her seemed alive, charged with the power of all 5 chakra natures, blending seamlessly with her spiritual energy. Naruto crouched in the shadows, Katen Kyokotsu resting on his shoulder. He observed intently, ready to step in if his sensei or Guy faltered, though he respected their strength enough to hold back for now. Guy wiped the blood from his lip, his eyes burning with determination. Kakashi, this one is a lot tougher than that brood I just dealt with. She's on a whole other level. Kakashi nodded, his Sharingan focused on Haruka's every movement. She's not just strong, Guy. She's smart. She's testing us, probing for weaknesses. We can't give her an opening. Haruka smiled serenely, her voice calm and melodic. Weakness? Such a mortal concept. Strength and weakness are but illusions in the grand weave of life. She raised her hands, chakras swirling as 5 elemental orbs, fire, water, earth, wind, and lightning, manifested around her. But if you wish to test your resolve, I shall grant you the gift of enlightenment. With a wave of her hand, the elemental orb shot toward them at blinding speed. Kakashi and Guy leaped apart as the orbs collided with the ground, erupting into explosions of raw elemental energy. Fire scorched the earth, water surged in crashing waves, and jagged rocks erupted like spikes from the ground. Kakashi countered with a swift earth wall, blocking the worst of the debris, while Guy used his incredible speed to weave through the chaos. Dynamic entry. Guy launched himself at Haruka, his kick blazing with chakra. She shifted into her wind element, her body dissolving into a gust of air. Guy's attack passed harmlessly through her, and she reappeared several meters away. "Your strength is impressive," Haruka said, "but brute force alone will not touch me." She extended her hand, summoning chains that shot toward Guy, glowing with spiritual energy. Kakashi intercepted, throwing a flurry of lightning-charged shuriken to sever the chains. "We'll see about that," he muttered. His Sharingan spun as he analyzed Haruka's movements. Guy landed beside Kakashi, his fists clenched. "This isn't working. I'll have to up the tempo." He crossed his arms over his chest and shouted, "The fifth gate of limit, open." Guy launched himself at Haruka with renewed speed. Haruka fused with her earth element, her body becoming as solid and unyielding as stone. Guy's punch connected, sending shockwaves through the battlefield, but she remained rooted, absorbing the force. Before she could retaliate, Kakashi appeared behind her, his tanto glowing with lightning chakra. He slashed at her back, but Haruka shifted into her fire form. She reformed behind them, her hands forming seals. Kakashi's mind raced as he dodged the spirit's relentless attacks. "She's too versatile. Every time we counter one element, she switches to another. If this keeps up, we'll run out of chakra before she does." Guy landed beside him, blood dripping from a cut on his forehead. "Got any bright ideas, genius?" As Guy charged the construct, opening the sixth gate to gain an edge, Kakashi rushed toward Haruka, his tanto at the ready. She greeted him with a serene smile. "So, you wish to challenge me directly?" Bold, but foolish. Haruka unleashed a barrage of blasts, but Kakashi weaved through them with a Sharingan, closing the distance. Their blades clashed, her spiritual energy meeting his lightning chakra in a brilliant display. "Why fight, Kakashi?" Haruka whispered. "Your heart is heavy with pain. Wouldn't it be easier to let go, to accept the balance of the world?" Kakashi's eyes narrowed. "I've already lost too much. I won't lose anyone else." Despite his best efforts, Haruka's spiritual form proved almost untouchable. Kakashi dodged another elemental attack, panting heavily. His Sharingan glowed with intensity, and he hesitated, his hand reaching for his left eye. "No, not yet," he muttered. The memory of Rin's death flashed through his mind, the moment he'd awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. The strain, the trauma, it was a power he dreaded to use. But as Haruka prepared a final, devastating attack, Kakashi's resolve hardened. "I didn't want to resort to this." Before Kakashi could activate Kamui, a shadow flickered across the battlefield. Naruto stepped forward, Katen Kyokotsu drawn. "You've done enough, sensei. Let me handle this." Haruka's calm facade finally cracked, her eyes narrowing as she sensed Naruto's overwhelming spiritual energy. "So, the shadow in the wings finally reveals himself." Naruto smirked, his blades spinning lazily. "You've had your fun. Now it's my turn." Before Kakashi could activate Kamui, a shadow flickered across the battlefield. The ground darkened for a split second as Naruto stepped forward, his scimitars lazily resting in his hands. His expression was calm, yet his presence sent a ripple through the air. "You've done enough, sensei," Naruto said softly, his tone carrying both respect and finality. "Let me handle this." Haruka's spiritual storm subsided as her gaze snapped toward the young ninja. Her calm facade cracked ever so slightly, her eyes narrowing. "So, the shadow in the wings finally reveals himself," she mused. Naruto sighed, his blade spinning in his hands with an almost casual grace. "You've had your fun. Now it's my turn." Kakashi blinked, catching the subtle shift in Naruto's expression, the slightest narrowing of his visible eye, the quiet tension in his shoulders. It was an expression he recognized well. "Run, as fast as you can," Naruto ordered softly, his voice like cold steel. Kakashi's blood froze for a moment. He turned to Guy, who stood still, winded from the intense battle. "Guy, we need to move. Now!" Guy glanced at him, confused at first, but the urgency in Kakashi's voice registered. "What?" "Trust me," Kakashi interrupted sharply, already moving. "This is about to get dangerous." Sensing the shift in tone, Guy nodded and followed without question. As they disappeared into the distance, Naruto waited, his blades still lowered. Silence settled over the battlefield, save for the soft whistle of the wind. Haruka watched the retreating figures with mild curiosity before turning back to Naruto. "The face you're making is unbecoming for someone like you," she commented, her tone tinged with amusement. "Tell me, Naruto Nara? Or should I say Naruto Namikaze?" Naruto chuckled lightly, though his eye held no humor. "You're well informed. Not many people know of my true lineage. The organization I serve deals in intelligence," Haruka replied smoothly. Naruto tilted his head, his smirk turning sharp. "And assassination is another one of your services, isn't it?" Haruka smiled at the perceptive remark. "Very good, Naruto. You see, our clients are persistent. Even if my group were to withdraw, others would come for Lord Kamen. Their coin is persuasive, and they won't stop until his life ends." Naruto sighed, his gaze softening for the briefest moment. "I really wished we could have resolved this peacefully." Haruka raised an eyebrow, as if humoring him. "A noble sentiment for a boy of your power. Your pacifism is admirable, but also naive." Naruto exhaled, shifting his stance. "Naive or not?" He pointed both scimitars toward the ground. "I guess we'll find out." Naruto's voice dropped to a low chant, the air around him darkening, as if the world itself held its breath. Beneath the withering pines, shadows dance in despair, a tale of lovers bound, entwined by fate's cruel snare. Come forth, Karamatsu Shinju, and weave the final play, where joy fades to sorrow and all light decays. Bunkei. The release was instantaneous. Black tendrils erupted from Naruto like shadows come to life, extending outward in sharp, twisting patterns that resembled ink-drawn pine branches. The tendrils coiled and writhed, swallowing the surrounding light and casting the battlefield into gloom. Behind Naruto, two spirits, Katen and Kyokotsu, manifested like ethereal phantoms, their forms faint and terrifying. A chilling aura swept through the area, making the sky itself appear fractured, the yellow square panels of a theater stage hovering in the void above. Haruka's calm demeanor faltered, her fingers twitching as if brushing against something unseen. "What is this?" Naruto tilted his head downward, his voice a low murmur. A tragic play is about to unfold. The battlefield was silent, save for the eerie hum of shadow and despair. The battlefield stood silent, swallowed by shadow and despair as Naruto's Bankai took form. Black tendrils writhed like ink-drawn pine branches, spreading outward to cover the land beneath his feet. Above them, the sky fractured, replacing the heavens with eerie yellow square panels, the semblance of a theater stage. Behind Naruto, his Zanpakuto spirits, Katen and Kyokotsu, loomed ominously, their ethereal presence filling the air with weight and dread. Haruka's serene mask faltered as the gloom settled in. Her spiritual energy hummed dangerously, but even she could not deny the unnatural weight pressing down on her. What a chilling power! A stage set for tragedy. How fitting. Naruto stood still. Katen Kyokotsu held loosely at his sides, the blade's edges glimmering faintly in the murk. Fitting or not, the story begins now. His voice was quiet, but carried across the stage like a whispered warning. Act 1. Tamarakizu no Wakachiai, hesitance and apportionment of wounds. Naruto took a deliberate step forward, and Haruka, sensing the shift, fused with her first element fire. Flames erupted around her body, casting an infernal glow in stark contrast to the oppressive shadows. Her speed increased, her figure blurring as she launched herself at Naruto. Her fist swung forward, flames roaring, but Naruto sidestepped smoothly. The tip of his scimitar caught her arm in a shallow cut, causing her to hiss slightly in pain. Yet Naruto grimaced as well, a matching cut appearing across his arm as if mirrored. Haruka's eyes narrowed. Shared wounds? Naruto calmly recited, as though to share in his suffering. The wounds upon his partner's body appear upon his own. Yet in a cruel twist of fate, he cannot die from those wounds. She halted for a moment, analyzing the strange phenomenon. With a flick of her hand, she hurled a torrent of flames at him. Naruto vanished with Shuinpa, appearing behind her with a slash. Her flaming form twisted midair, and she retaliated with a fire-coated elbow strike to his ribs. Both of them staggered as matching wounds appeared, scorch marks searing into their flesh. Haruka's lips curled into a frown. An ability that nullifies my advantage? Clever. But how long can you keep this up? Naruto smirked faintly, even as blood trickled from his lips. Long enough. Haruka shifted tactics, summoning a swirling vortex of water, dousing her flames and enveloping herself in liquid armor. The water coiled around her limbs, augmenting her movements. Her strikes became fluid, unpredictable, as she launched rapid jets of water at Naruto while closing in for hand-to-hand combat. Naruto matched her rhythm, his scimitars dancing to intercept her strikes. Each time he cut through her water armor, droplets splashed across him, leaving sharp, stinging wounds on his skin. Haruka grinned as she realized the shared wound effect extended to her elemental strikes as well. She flicked her hand, summoning a series of binding sigils that glowed with spiritual energy. Let's see you escape this. Chains shot out of the sigils, wrapping around Naruto's legs and arms. Haruka summoned an orb of swirling water and hurled it directly at his chest. Naruto, unable to dodge, took the attack full force. The water exploded into a crushing torrent, and Haruka watched as he crumbled to his knees. Yet blood suddenly spurted from her own chest, a gash forming exactly where Naruto had been hit. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she staggered. What? Naruto rose slowly, breathing heavily. You should have realized it by now. No matter what damage you do to me, you'll feel it too. Haruka scowled, wiping blood from her lips. This play is too cruel. Naruto's voice dropped. It's only just begun. Act 2. Zenki no Shirtone, the pillow of shame. Naruto raised his blade, reciting softly, lamenting that he has caused his partner such wounds. The man collapses upon the floor in shame and is consumed by an incurable ailment. Black spots began to materialize across Haruka's skin, pulsing ominously. She stumbled, her spiritual energy faltering for the first time as blood began to leak from the spots. What is this? Haruka grunted, her voice losing some of its confidence. The black stains spread like an infection, and every movement seemed to pull her deeper into pain. A man's shame given form. Naruto. Haruka gritted her teeth and shifted into earth. Her skin hardened into stone, cracks forming where the black spots marred her surface. With a furious roar, she slammed her fists into the ground, causing the earth to erupt in jagged pillars that shot toward Naruto. Naruto dodged nimbly with Shuinpa. Haruka surged forward, her stone fist crashing down toward him. Naruto met her head-on, his scimitars striking her stone form in rapid succession. Every blow rebounded onto himself, blood splattering from his arms and legs. Yet Haruka's hardened form was deteriorating just as quickly, fissures splitting her body as the black spots bled profusely. Why don't you fall? Haruka shouted, her voice cracking. Naruto's eye gleamed coldly. You're already breaking. Act 3, Danjio no Fuchi, the Severing Abyss. Naruto's voice carried softly across the broken field. Resigning themselves to their fate, the two hurl themselves into the gushing waters, until no Ryatsu remains in their bodies. The ground beneath them gave way as a vast, dark body of water erupted into existence. Haruka and Naruto were pulled into its depths, submerged within the inescapable abyss. The water was oppressive, cold, and unending. Haruka thrashed, struggling to keep herself afloat as her chakra reserves were steadily drained. No, I refuse. Naruto floated effortlessly, his gaze locked onto her. This play is nearly over. The final act. Ido Kurubasami Kaizom no Nadabu. Thread-cutting scissors upon a blood-streaked throat. Naruto sheathed his blades, the haunting stillness of his Bankai consuming the battlefield. The abyssal waters swirled ominously, resonating with Haruka's fading strength. She struggled to rise, but her body refused, cracks spreading through her hardened form, blood seeping from the blackened wounds inflicted by Naruto's cursed stage. Naruto took a slow step forward, his presence dominating the void. In his hand materialized a thin, white glowing thread, shimmering like a strand of moonlight, yet carrying an undeniable sense of finality. Haruka's breaths came in sharp, ragged gasps as she looked up at him, her trembling body betraying her. What is that? Naruto's steps were deliberate, unhurried, his eye cold and unwavering. The final act, he said softly, the thread in his hand stretching and writhing like a living thing. With a flick of his wrist, the thread shot forward, wrapping around Haruka's throat like a rope. Her eyes widened as the glowing strand tightened, the sharp pull forcing her head to tilt slightly. She gritted her teeth, blood trickling from her lips as she clawed at the thread, her fingers unable to grasp its ethereal form. Is this how it ends? Naruto didn't answer. His hand tightened, and the thread began to glow brighter, digging deep into her neck. Her struggles weakened as the glowing strand pulsed, each beat sapping the remaining strength from her body. You monster! Haruka! The abyss around them churned violently, reflecting the climax of the tragedy unfolding on its stage. Naruto's voice was low, almost mournful, as he whispered the final poem. Few things are as cruel as a woman's mercy. She has no ears for her lover's desperate pleas. At his precious throat, she spies glistening white threads, damp with regret. Thus, she resolves to sever with her own hands those threads of regret that pitifully entwine him. With a final, merciless pull, the thread snapped taut. For a moment, everything stood still. Then, with a sickening burst, Haruka's head exploded in a violent eruption of blood. Her lifeless body collapsed, sinking into the abyss as if consumed by the very stage that had sealed her fate. The oppressive aura of the Bankai dissolved, the fractured sky above returning to its natural hue. The battlefield was silent once more, the only sound the faint rustle of wind. Naruto stood alone, the weight of the act heavy on his shoulders. He let the thread in his hand dissipate, its glow vanishing like the last remnants of a dying flame. He exhaled deeply, his voice quiet but final. Curtain closed. The battlefield was eerily quiet, save for the faint rustling of the wind sweeping through the aftermath of Naruto's Bankai. The heavy gloom had dissipated, leaving behind a haunting emptiness. Naruto stood motionless at the center of it all, his figure cast in stark relief against the desolate scene. His breathing was shallow and uneven, his body trembling under the immense strain of the final act. Slowly, deliberately, he raised a hand to his face, adjusting his eye patch over his right eye. The single visible eye stared ahead, sharp and weary. Victory had been secured, but it was hollow, as most victories in this cruel play often were. His gaze shifted, catching on a still form in the distance. Ryuji, the man who had crossed paths with fate in the wrong moment, lay sprawled upon the ground, his body marred by the unmistakable remnants of Naruto's Bankai. The wounds from Act I were etched deeply into his skin. His once vibrant figure now bore the dark, spreading stains from Act 2, black spots disfiguring the pallor of his corpse like a painter's cruel hand. And then there was his head, or rather, the absence of it. Only a bloody mess remained, a grim testament to the cruelty of Act 4. The remnants of his mortal struggle seemed to have been erased in the span of a heartbeat, the explosive violence of Naruto's Bankai claiming yet another casualty. Naruto's jaw clenched tightly as he took it all in. The truth settled heavily upon him. He hadn't even realized Ryuji had been caught in the crossfire. Naruto walked towards Ryuji. Naruto knelt down briefly, his gaze fixed on the broken form before him. His hand hovered over the man's chest, unsure whether to touch it or leave it be. Finally, he muttered under his breath, his voice low and strained. "Sorry, I didn't want this for you." He closed his eye, bowing his head slightly in acknowledgement. For a brief moment, the air seemed to still, as though the world offered its own quiet respect for the fallen. But Naruto knew he couldn't linger. There was no solace to be found in this place. Rising slowly to his feet, he cast one last glance at Ryuji's remains before turning away. The stage had been dismantled, the curtain drawn, and yet the echoes of the performance would linger. As Naruto began to walk away, his lone shadow stretched far behind him, a somber specter of the tragedy he carried with him. Far above, a drone hovered silently. Don't even bother asking how the drone survived the water. It's there for plot. Its small frame cloaked in subtle, reflective plating that blended with the darkened sky. The faint hum of its rotors was imperceptible as it captured every detail of the battlefield below. Behind a sleek control panel in a hidden location, Kaido Yamamoto leaned back in his chair, his hand lazily spinning the joystick controlling the drone. His lips curved into a sly grin as the feed displayed Haruka's lifeless body. Well, Kaido muttered to himself, his voice smooth and light. You certainly don't see that every day. He adjusted the camera angle, zooming in on Ruji's corpse, the black marks dotting his skin. For a brief moment, his smile faltered, replaced by a shadow of something resembling regret. Ah, Ruji, poor guy. Always thought you'd go out in a blaze of glory. Not like this. Guess the stage wasn't yours to shine on. The camera panned back to Naruto. Kaido gave a low, impressed whistle. Taking down Kazuo and Haruka? Damn, kid, you've got some real talent. I'll give you that. For a moment, Kaido's fingers hesitated over the controls, as if debating whether to mourn his fallen comrades further. Instead, he chuckled quietly, shaking his head. Not that it matters. You're a dead man walking, kid. You have no idea what's coming for you. His tone shifted, colder now, as he leaned closer to the monitor, his grin returning. Enjoy the moment, Naruto Nara or Namikaze. Because once Shura gets wind of this, there won't be a stage big enough for the tragedy she'll bring. Kaido sat back, folding his hands behind his head as the drone feed continued its silent observation. As Naruto began to take a step forward, a rush of heat flooded through him. The red chakra of the Nine Tails surged outward, enveloping his battered frame. The wounds on his body began to close as Kurama's power knitted his torn muscles and restored his strength. Naruto chuckled weakly, his voice laced with gratitude. Thanks, Kurama. I owe you one. Humph. The beast's tone softened, though it retained its gruff edge. Don't mention it. Besides, if you die, I die. So don't get too sentimental, brat. The red chakra receded as quickly as it had appeared, leaving Naruto standing tall once more. He flexed his hands, feeling the renewed strength coursing through him. Let's go, he muttered, his single eye glinting with determination as he made his way back to his team. Naruto joined Kakashi, Guy, Kurenai, and Kamen by the roadside, where they had regrouped after the chaotic battle. Guy had bandaged his forearm, still slightly bruised from his fight with Ruji and the fierce exchanges with Haruka alongside Kakashi. Despite the physical strain, his usual energy seemed undiminished as he gave Naruto a thumbs up. Kakashi broke the tense silence, his voice calm but firm. It's time you told us what's really going on. Those assassins weren't just random bandits, they were far too coordinated and well-equipped. Who would go to such lengths to kill you? Kamen hesitated, shifting uncomfortably under Kakashi's intense gaze. You don't understand. Yugikure isn't like other places. There's peace there, but it's fragile. People resent it. Kurenai's eyes narrowed, her voice sharp. Resent peace? Why would anyone be against stability and prosperity? Kamen swallowed hard, his fingers nervously clutching his torn robe. Because Yugikure has changed. Under Fujimoto-sama, the village has become soft, or so the factions say. It's no longer a ninja village. It's a tourist haven. People come for the hot springs and festivals, not for war. Naruto frowned. And they hate that? Kamen nodded quickly. They hate it with a passion. The old ways are gone. These factions, rogue clans, Jashinists, they see Fujimoto-sama as a traitor to Yugikure's identity. He's turned a village of warriors into a place of peace. Kakashi leaned forward, his single visible eye narrowing. Fujimoto Dano is one of the most powerful men in the world. Why would anyone challenge him? Kamen let out a bitter chuckle, though it lacked humor. That's exactly why they resent him. He could use his strength to conquer, to dominate like so many others. But instead, he wastes it playing the role of Yugikure's guard dog. Naruto's expression darkened as he listened. Kamen's voice grew steadier as his frustration spilled out. Fujimoto-sama stands watch over Yugikure like an unshakable wall. He protects the peace, shields the village's people, and wards off those who would bring war to our gates. But to the factions, that makes him weak, a man unwilling to seize power and restore Yugikure to what they believe it once was. Kurenai's voice was cold and perceptive. And these factions see merchants like you as part of the problem. You're symbols of the new Yugikure, a village focused on trade and tourism, not war. Kamen flinched, but nodded. Yes, to them. I'm a parasite feeding off Fujimoto-sama's peace. My wealth comes from the tourists and travelers his leadership attracts. They think if they destroy us, the merchants, the prosperity, then everything Fujimoto-sama has built will collapse. Naruto's voice cut through the air, sharp and unwavering. Let me get this straight. They resent peace because it doesn't let them fight. They hate a man who uses his strength to protect others instead of conquering. And they're willing to kill innocent people just to make a point. Kamen looked up into Naruto's eye, struck by the intensity of the young shinobi's gaze. That's exactly it. Peace has turned Yugikure into a village they don't recognize, and Fujimoto-sama, Naruto interrupted, his voice firm, is doing what a real leader does. He's protecting his people. That doesn't make him weak. The group fell silent. Kakashi watched Naruto carefully, noting the tension in his shoulders and the fire in his gaze. Fujimoto Dano's peace has made Yugikure a target for those who thrive in war. These attacks won't stop as long as the factions think they can destabilize the village. Kamen bowed his head, shame evident in his posture. I didn't mean to cause this. I thought I could make the trip quietly, without drawing attention. I didn't realize how bold they'd become. Guy crossed his arms, his normally upbeat tone taking on a somber edge. Even in times of peace, the seeds of discord can remain. Kurama growled softly in Naruto's mind. Fools clinging to destruction. I swear, you humans? Naruto didn't respond, but the weight of Kurama's words lingered as the group prepared to continue their journey. Unknown location. The remaining core members of Kirikage gathered in a dimly lit chamber. A holographic projection displayed footage from Kaido's drone, capturing Naruto's battles with Kazuo and Haruka. Yuki Fukunaga smirked, crossing his arms as he leaned against a wall. The kid's impressive. Taking down Haruka is no small feat. She was one of our best. Tetsuya Okabe let out a wild laugh, his feral grin exposing sharp teeth. Impressive? The runts just prey, waiting for the hunt. I'll crush him with my bare hands next time. Let him fight like that against me, and see how long he lasts. Isamu Nishimura remained calm, his tone cold and calculating. Underestimating him would be a mistake. Tetsuya. He's dangerous, not because of his strength, but because of his unpredictability. He took down Kazuo and Haruka because they underestimated him. Shiro Mizuki glared at the monitor, her expression icy. Her fingers tapped rhythmically against the armrest of her chair as she suppressed the growing fury in her chest. Finally, she spoke, her voice calm but deadly. I'll finish the job myself. Naruto Namikaze will die by my hand. Kaido leaned back in his chair, smirking as he toyed with a kunai. Boss, sure you could beat the kid with some minor difficulty. But Fujimoto? He's on another level. If you start trouble in Yugikure, he'll retaliate. And trust me, you don't want him as an enemy. Shira's crimson eyes narrowed dangerously. I'm not afraid of that old geezer. If he dares interfere, I'll destroy them both, Naruto and Fujimoto. Nothing will stand in my way. Her gaze flicked back to the monitor, lingering on the image of Naruto. Naruto Namikaze, she murmured to herself, her tone laced with both intrigue and malice. The towering gates of Yugikure loomed ahead as Naruto, Kakashi, Guy, Kurenai, and Kamen approached. The guards stationed at the entrance stood tall, their gray uniforms bearing the insignia of a steaming spring, a symbol of the village's identity. Lord Kamen, one of the guards exclaimed, stepping forward with a deep bow. Relief softened his stern expression as he glanced at Kamen's disheveled state. Kamen smiled weakly, though the weight of their journey was clear in his eyes. We finally made it, he said, his tone tinged with exhaustion. The guard's gaze swept over the group before settling on the empty space behind Kamen. Where are your men, my lord? The somber silence that followed was answer enough. The guard stiffened before lowering his head in silent acknowledgement. He turned to the Konoha Nin with a grateful expression. Thank you for protecting Lord Kamen. Your efforts will not be forgotten. Kakashi gave a lazy wave of his hand. It's all part of the job. Guy, despite his injuries, struck a proud pose. No need to thank us. The youthful flames of Konoha burned brightest when protecting others. Naruto sighed, shaking his head. Let's just say it wasn't a walk in the park. Kurenai remained composed, her crimson eyes scanning their surroundings. Is the village secure? The guard nodded. It is. No troublemakers would dare act with Fujimoto-sama here. As the gates opened, the group stepped inside, and Naruto's single eye widened slightly at the sight before him. Yugakure was a village unlike any other. The air was thick with the pleasant scent of steam and mineral-rich water, carried on a gentle breeze. Narrow cobblestone streets wound through the village, bordered by elegant wooden buildings with tiled roofs. Lanterns adorned with intricate designs hung from beams, casting warm, golden light over the pathways. Streams of crystal-clear water flowed alongside the streets, bubbling softly as they fed into small fountains and canals. Visitors bustled about, their laughter and conversation blending with the soothing sound of the springs. Stalls lined the roads, selling everything from handcrafted pottery to local delicacies. The group passed a bustling market where merchants proudly displayed their wares. A vendor called out, offering steaming bowls of onsen tamago and fresh fish skewers. Children played by the streams, their giggles filling the air as they splashed each other. Naruto couldn't help but smile at the peaceful scene. "So this is Yugakure," he murmured. "It's nice." Kakashi's visible eye crinkled in amusement. "Not bad for a tourist haven, huh?" Guy inhaled deeply, his chest swelling. Ah, the rejuvenating energy of this village. Truly a place of youthfulness and vitality. Kurenai glanced at Naruto, noting the way his gaze lingered on the happy villagers. For a moment, she saw the tension in his shoulders ease. Kamen's estate was a grand structure perched on a hillside, overlooking the village. Its garden was meticulously maintained, with koi ponds and stone lanterns dotting the landscape. Servants greeted them at the entrance, bowing low as Kamen and his protectors entered. With their mission complete, Kamen handed over a heavy pouch of Ryo to Kakashi. "For your troubles, you have my gratitude." Kakashi accepted it with a polite nod. "It was a pleasure working with you, Lord Kamen." Naruto, however, tilted his head. "You sure you'll be safe here?" Kamen offered a tired smile. "I will. The troublemakers may be bold, but they're not fools. They wouldn't dare challenge Fujimoto-sama's authority." Naruto grinned. "Well then, I guess we can relax and see what Yugakure has to offer." Eager to unwind, Naruto ventured out alone. He wandered through the vibrant streets, sampling the local cuisine and admiring the village's unique charm. A small ramen shop caught his eye, and he couldn't resist stopping for a bowl. The rich, savory broth warmed him from the inside out. Eventually, Naruto found himself at one of the village's famous hot springs. The wooden entrance was adorned with painted screens depicting serene landscapes. His eye gleamed mischievously as he noticed the sign for mixed bathing. "This is going to be fun," he muttered, slipping inside. The hot spring was a tranquil paradise. Steam rose from the bubbling water, mingling with the soft glow of lanterns. Rocks and lush greenery surrounded the pools, creating an intimate, natural setting. Naruto leaned back against the edge of the spring, letting out a relaxed sigh. His body sank into the warm water, the tension melting away. He closed his eye, a lazy grin spreading across his face. That grin widened when he heard the soft murmur of voices, female voices. Worth it, he thought smugly. On his way back to Kamen's estate, Naruto strolled through the dimly lit streets. The soft glow of lanterns bathed the cobblestone paths in warm light. As he turned a corner, he collided with someone. "Oh, sorry about that," Naruto exclaimed, looking up. The woman he bumped into was breathtaking. Her long, raven-black hair cascaded down her back like silk, framing her striking features. Her eyes, sharp and vivid, glowed like molten gold, a captivating contrast against her porcelain skin. High cheekbones, full lips, and an elegant jawline gave her an otherworldly allure. She wore a sleek black kimono with crimson accents, adorned with intricate patterns resembling blooming roses entangled with thorny vines, exuding both elegance and danger. The woman smiled politely. "No need to apologize. I wasn't paying attention either." Naruto rubbed the back of his neck, a sheepish grin on his face. "Well, I guess we're both at fault. Name's Naruto. What's yours?" She tilted her head, her smile faintly amused. "Shura. Nice to meet you, Shura." Naruto's grin turned playful. "You're gorgeous, you know that?" Shura chuckled softly. "Flattering, but aren't you a bit young for such comments?" Naruto shrugged. "Hey, I call it like I see it. Can't blame a guy for trying. Shura's expression remained kind, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of something darker. Kurama's voice echoed in Naruto's mind. Be careful, brat. This woman reeks of hostility. Naruto stiffened slightly before forcing a smile. Well, it was nice meeting you, Shura. See you around. As he turned to leave, Shura's voice dropped. I'm afraid you won't. Naruto's instinct screamed as he felt the air shift. He spun around, drawing one of his blades just in time to block a powerful punch aimed at his back. The clash sent a shockwave rippling through the street. Shura's attacks came like an unending storm. Every punch, every kick carried the weight of a collapsing building, her gravity release amplifying her blows to devastating levels. Naruto's blade met her strikes head-on, the impact creating shockwaves that rattled the air and cracked the earth beneath them. The force sent jolts of pain up his arm, but his stance never faltered. You're persistent, Naruto grunted, narrowly ducking under a high kick that whistled through the air. He countered with a quick thrust of his blade, but Shura twisted in midair. Her retaliation was swift. A volley of dark, pulsing orbs erupted from her outstretched palm, screaming through the battlefield, not at Naruto, but toward the panicked villagers. Naruto's heart dropped. She's targeting them. Without hesitation, he vanished in a blur, reappearing between the civilians and the deadly projectiles. His blades flashed in rapid succession, deflecting the orbs with precise strikes. Each impact sent rippling force through his arms, but he gritted his teeth and stood his ground. Move! Get out of here! Naruto's voice thundered as he turned his head slightly, keeping his blade raised. Go! Now! The villagers hesitated, fear rooting them in place. But another barrage of orbs from Shura left them scrambling. One of the slower villagers tripped, and Naruto dashed to intercept another projectile headed their way, slashing it mid-flight. The resulting explosion sent dirt and debris flying, but he stood firm, shielding the fallen civilian. Get up, he barked, pulling them to their feet. You don't have time to freeze up. The villagers stammered a thank you and bolted towards safety. Naruto didn't have a chance to watch them leave. Shura appeared above him in an instant, her leg descending like a hammer. Naruto raised his blades just in time, blocking her kick. The force of the strike sent him crashing into the ground, leaving a crater beneath him. He rolled out of the way as she followed up with another gravity-infused stomp, the earth splitting apart where he had been a moment before. You're wasting your energy on them, Shura said mockingly, her crimson eyes glowing. They're weak. Why not just accept their fate? Naruto shot her a glare as he climbed back to his feet. That's not how this works. His voice was steady, unwavering, even as his chest heaved for air. If you want to fight me, fine, but leave them out of it. Shura's lips curved into a cruel smile. Oh, then let's make this more interesting. She extended both arms, summoning a swirling mass of gravitational energy. The air around her warped and shimmered, and suddenly, chunks of the already damaged buildings and shattered ground began to rise into the air. She hurled the debris toward the fleeing villagers like meteors, the sheer velocity threatening to obliterate everything in their path. Naruto cursed under his breath and sprang into action. He intercepted the first chunk with a spinning slash, his blade cutting cleanly through the mass. The second piece came down faster, forcing him to leap high into the air to meet it. His blades crossed as he struck, shattering the debris into harmless fragments. But there were too many. The relentless assault of rubble and dark orbs was overwhelming, and Naruto could feel the strain creeping into his movements. A jagged boulder slipped past his defenses, hurtling toward a mother clutching her child. Naruto's eyes widened. Not on my watch. He vanished with Shuinpa, appearing in front of them just in time. His blade swung upward, cleaving the boulder in two, the halves crashing harmlessly to the sides. Keep moving, he barked, not even sparing a glance as he turned back to face Shura. The villagers were finally clear, but Shura was already closing in, her fist glowing with condensed gravitational energy. She struck with terrifying force, and Naruto barely managed to parry. The impact sent him skidding backward, his feet digging trenches into the ground. Naruto let out a deep sigh. You must be buddies with those guys who attacked Kamen. Shura's eyes narrowed. Naruto sighed. Look, I offered them a peaceful way out. They didn't take it. That's on them. Shura's voice was cold. I don't blame you for their deaths. It's the way of the world, kill or be killed. But they were dear to me. Naruto's gaze softened for a moment. I get that, but this. Shura cut him off, her voice sharp. Save your pity. A massive black hole materialized in the sky, its gravitational pull threatening to consume everything. Naruto braced himself, ready to act, but before he could, a flaming slash tore through the air, destroying the black hole in an instant. Naruto turned, and his breath caught in his throat. Old man Yama, he whispered, a tear slipping down his cheek. Standing before him was none other than Jinryusai, Shigekuni Yamamoto, or as he was now known, Fujimoto, the leader of Yugikure. It has been a while, my son, Jinryusai said, though his gravelly voice carried a sharp edge. You're still as reckless and lazy as ever, Shunsui. Naruto smiled through his tears. It's good to see you too, old man. Shura's eyes narrowed as she launched another dark orb. Jinryusai effortlessly sliced through it with another flaming strike. Shura sneered. Hate to cut your reunion short, but you both have to die. She increased the gravity in the area, forcing Naruto and Jinryusai to their knees. Enough, Jinryusai said, releasing a burst of Ryatsu that shattered her hold. Naruto followed suit, his own energy flaring to life. Jinryusai's voice was firm. Shunsui, create a barrier. I'll handle her myself. Naruto smirked. Been a while since I've seen you in action. Don't disappoint me, old man. Jinryusai's eyes burned with determination. Those who disrupt the peace of Yugikure will be turned to ash. Shura smirked confidently. Bring it on, old geezer. Naruto chuckled, stepping back as he began forming a barrier. She has no idea what she's up against. Yamamoto's wrath, duel of fire and darkness. Shura's eyes narrowed, the confidence in her smirk unfazed. I've heard tales of you, Jinryusai Fujimoto, leader of Yugikure, a man who commands fire itself. I hope you won't disappoint me. Barriers set, Naruto called out. Don't hold back, old man. Jinryusai didn't acknowledge Naruto's words. His focus remained on Shura, who stood ready to attack. His voice rumbled, calm but carrying a dangerous edge. Are you prepared for your punishment, girl? Jinryusai's voice was calm, yet it carried the weight of centuries, each syllable infused with authority. Shura smirked, her crimson eyes gleaming with malice. Old man, you think you can handle me? I'll crush you under the weight of your own arrogance. Shura struck first, thrusting her hand forward and unleashing dark release. Abyssal spears, a flurry of shadowed projectiles that streaked toward Jinryusai with devastating speed. With a single motion, Jinryusai swung Ryujin Jakka, a wave of fire erupting from the blade. The flames met the spears midair, incinerating them in an instant. The heat lingered, causing the stone beneath the clash to bubble and melt. When an opening presented itself, he delivered a single Akatsu, a devastating punch that connected with Shura's side. The impact sent her flying, crashing through several walls before coming to a stop. Dust and debris filled the air as Shura emerged from the wreckage, coughing but far from defeated. Not bad, old man. Let's see how you handle this. Shura surged forward, her gravity release, amplifying her speed and strength. She closed the distance in a blink, her fists coated in dark energy as she unleashed a barrage of strikes. Jinryusai moved like a storm, his blade intercepting every punch with precise, deliberate movements. Each clash sent shockwaves through the street, shattering nearby structures. Impressive, Jinryusai remarked, his tone sharp, but fire reduces all things to ash. He swung Ryujin Jakka in a wide arc, flames erupting outward in a devastating wave. Shura leapt back, raising her hands to activate presence of the Demon King, dramatically amplifying gravity in the space between them. The flames warped and bent under the immense pressure, their trajectory shifting harmlessly to the sides. The gravity around Jinryusai intensified exponentially, crushing the street beneath him into rubble and forcing the surrounding structures to groan under the strain. Naruto, watching from his barrier, felt the oppressive weight even from a distance. Geez, that's some insane gravity. Old man Yama, Don't let her show you up. Jinryosai remained standing, his feet firmly planted. He tightened his grip on Ryujin Jaka and channeled his Ryatsu, countering the immense pressure with his spiritual energy. Your tricks mean nothing to me, he said, stepping forward as if the crushing gravity was mere child's play. Shura's smirk faltered, and she reinforced her technique, doubling the weight. The ground beneath Jinryosai cratered, but the man himself remained unaffected. With a sharp glare, he slashed his sword upward, dispelling the gravity entirely with a burst of flames. Shura raised both hands, summoning a gravity singularity, a swirling black orb of immense power. The air around it warped violently, the ground cracking and rising into the vortex. With a flick of her wrist, she hurled it at Jinryosai, the singularity growing larger as it moved. Jinryosai didn't flinch. Jikaku-injo, flames erupted around him, forming a massive sphere of fire. The singularity collided with the inferno, the two forces battling for dominance. Space distorted violently as the gravity warped the flames, but Jinryosai raised Ryujin Jaka and sliced downward, his flames surging. The singularity shattered, its fragments scattering harmlessly into the sky. Foolish! Jinryosai stepped forward, his blade glowing with renewed heat. You think your tricks can surpass the flames of hell itself? Snarling, Shura lunged forward again, this time using heavy infighting. Her punches came faster and harder, gravity enhancing her strikes to make each blow feel like a mountain falling. Jinryosai met her head-on, Ryujin Jaka blocking and parrying with deadly efficiency. Each clash of fist and blade sent shockwaves rippling outward. The heat of Jinryosai's flames began to singe Shura's skin despite her enhanced durability. She gritted her teeth, refusing to relent. Spotting an opening, she drove her foot into the ground, summoning Evil God's pressure craft. A massive chunk of earth rose beneath her, rapidly compressed into a gigantic sword through gravitational pressure. With a flick of her hand, the sword flew toward Jinryosai at incredible speed. Jinryosai narrowed his eyes, stepping aside as the sword streaked past him. Raising his blade, he unleashed a wave of fire so immense it swallowed the sword entirely, reducing it to ash. Shura whispered, her voice echoing unnaturally. The shadows coiled outward, a dark aura latching onto Jinryosai's form, creeping toward his mind. For the first time, Shura's smirk widened. Even the strongest can break. Yet Jinryosai's flame didn't waver. His eyes blazed as his voice thundered. You think your will can conquer mine? The flames around him surged, incinerating the dark aura in an instant. The pressure of his Ryatsu alone shattered Shura's mental assault, forcing her to stumble backward. You've overstepped, girl. Ryujin Jaka ignited anew, its flames spiraling upward as 7 massive pillars erupted around Shura, encasing her completely. Inetsu Jigaku. The flames closed inward like a collapsing sun, the heat overwhelming even the gravity Shura tried to impose. She roared defiantly, releasing Dark Release, Black Hole Abyss at full power. A monstrous vortex erupted, pulling at the flames, the ground, and even the air itself. The black hole and the flames warred violently, space distorting as both forces clashed in the center of the battlefield. Jinryosai didn't falter. Stepping into the maelstrom, he raised Ryujin Jaka high, his movements deliberate and final. Taimatsu, Final Judgment. A single downward slash. The flames burst outward in a blinding torrent, consuming the black hole entirely and crashing into Shura like the judgment of a god. The inferno rose into the heavens, its brilliance visible for miles. When the flames finally receded, the battlefield fell silent. Shura lay sprawled on the scorched earth, smoke rising from her battered body, her limbs trembling as she gasped for breath. Jinryosai stood over her, Ryujin Jaka resting against his shoulder, its flames finally dimming. His voice carried the weight of finality. Your strength is commendable, but my flames burn away all hubris. Shura coughed weakly, a half-smile tugging at her lips. Tisich, so this is the strength of the legendary flame? I never stood a chance, did I? she said before falling unconscious. Jinryu's side turned, already walking away as his flames extinguished completely. You fought bravely. Take solace in that. As the dust settled, Naruto's barrier dropped, and he landed nearby, whistling softly at the destruction. Impressive as ever. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed exploring this what if with me. If you did, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more videos like this. Your support truly makes a difference, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you'd like to see next. Until next time, take care and stay tuned for more.